In this lesson, I want to show you a technique to deal with high dynamics on dark images. Now, this image obviously not as dark as it's going to be because, as always, we're going to right click, we're going to come down to our LUTs, we're going to apply our Log C to Rec 709 LUT, and what we're also going to do on this node is we're just going to make an exposure adjustment. I think I'm going to punch this all the way down to about somewhere around 8.5. I think that's pretty good right about there. All right. Now, if I zoom in here, you're going to notice that we actually have some hard edges happening between our highlights and our midtones that we're going to want to get in and fix. Now, a soft clip is not going to be able to do the roll off on the highlights that we want because they're way too low, as you can see over here on the scopes. So we need to find a different way to limit the extreme registers of our highlights. So let's compress the highlights with a Luma curve. Now this is more commonly referred to as controlled clipping. So what we're going to do, select this first node. Now the important thing here is that I only want to adjust the brightness values. So I'm going to unlink all the channels. We're only going to be dealing with the luminance value. And what I'm also going to do here is I'm just going to add the default anchors, and then I'm just going to remove a couple of them. And we're simply going to pull this value down to somewhere about there, I think. And then what we're also going to do is I'm going to turn on the editable splines. And we're just going to make this a little bit of a smoother curve. Now, it's not readily apparent until I actually disable this and enable it. You can see now a lot more smooth between the highlights and the midtones. Basically, it's gathered highlights and it's a nice roll off from the highlights to the midtones. It gives a much more cinematic feel to the image and is one of the most important techniques to master to control the look of the image. You can use this technique to control the whole image or inside of garbage masks to control part of the image. Flattening highlights can give a painterly feeling, and it is a very important element in look creation. Now what we need to do is just add a little bit of shine back to this light. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to reset. Let's just zoom to fit. I'm going to add another node here, Option or Alt and S. I'm going to want to make sure that I am in my log controls. Let's set our high range value here to be 0.5. And then what I'm going to do is grab the highlights. I'm just going to drag them way up here, somewhere around, I think 0.4 might be a little bit too high. Let's just turn this on and off here. Yeah, let's sort of put that down at around half that. Let's just go sort of around 2.2 maybe. I think that's much better. All right, you can see we just added a little bit of shine back to that light. As we talked about in the previous lesson, we can also do a Luma key to isolate the range we want, but it's good practice to avoid keying when we don't need to do it. The log controls are precise and work perfectly in this case. Now, we're going to get in and create a new Luma curve to better control the blacks and midtones of the image. Let's just space out our nodes, Option or Alt and S. Now, what's important to keep in mind is that I could have done the same thing with log shadows, but we're going to use this technique here. So I'm going to select this node, and we're going to give our image a little bit of a gamma stretch here. So again, much like I had done before, I'm simply going to come down. I'm going to turn off editable splines for right now. I'm just going to come down. We're going to add the default anchors, grab the bottom one. I'm just going to drag it over to about here. Now you'll notice over here on the scopes, I'm just going to zoom in on them just so you can see exactly what's happening. And that's as I grab this bottommost point in the curve, you can see that I'm actually stretching those blacks right down to make sure that they are as dark as they can be. And what I also have the ability to do is just to grab one of these other points, just bring things north just a little bit here. These small precise adjustments mean everything to the image. Work the curve until you get to the sweet spot.